Let's talk. Welcome to the opening show, the premiere, the platform, the premier show of the End.formants, END period, FORMANTS. You can find us on Facebook. Just so you know a little bit about the show is a joint effort with 1539 Productions, owned by me, Lisa Todd, and Niles East Productions, owned by Paula Rhodes, who is the co-founder of this show. We have a Facebook page where we ask people to comment on topics, and we actually take topics that they would like us to comment on, and we have rotating hosts that last about a month, and some might come back, some might not come back. It depends on what's going on in their life. Every post that we're reading comes from the End.formants wall. So anybody's name that we mention, we're responding to your post. We're telling people what it is that you're saying and what's important to you. It's our world. Let's talk about it. Welcome to End.formants. So, I'm Lisa Todd. I'm one of the co-founders of Informants, the talk show for regular people by regular people. And it's our world. We care about it. It's your world. Let's talk about it. So, the co-founder tonight, who's going to be a regular host, is Paula Rhodes. And Paula, how you doing tonight?
Great, Lisa. How are you?
I'm doing good, Paula, and I got a good sound check. So that's great. And one of our rotating hosts this week is Brian Meadows. Brian, how we doing?
Pretty good. Ready to roll.
Good. All right. One of our other rotating hosts is Jenny Reed. Jenny, how we doing?
I'm doing great.
Okay.
Hey.
And you hear us loud and clear, right?
I sure do.
Okay, great. And then another rotating host we have this week is Tina Perna. How you doing, Tina?
How are you doing? I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. So you could hear everybody, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to start off, for those people that don't know, we did start a Facebook wall, and the Facebook wall has posts that have to deal with things that matter to people. So one of the first posts on the Facebook wall that I wanted to address, and I have it here, is death penalty, nay or yay. Now let me just tell you that Refi said nay to the death penalty because it costs the taxpayers a lot of money, and life in prison is probably worse. Besides, the death penalty has been found to kill people who have been found later with DNA to prove that they were innocent. So I'm going to start off with you, Tina. Tell me what you're feeling about the death penalty. Are you for it or against it?
I would have to say that I would be against it. As far as with the DNA, that does happen a lot. You know, they find later on that people are innocent, and that's not right. And if they get down for the rest of their life, that is a pretty good punishment as well.
Okay. Paula, I want you to also know that Lisa Newbold said she's all for the death penalty. What's your feeling on that?
Yay! I'm all for it. Actually, the death penalty, here's my take, Lisa. We spend tons of money on these vile creatures of society that have murdered and raped, and they're getting 3 hots and a cot, working out in a gym, and they're getting college educations and living a better life than a lot of poor Americans on our tax dollar. So I understand and I agree that, you know, there are cases where, you know, innocent people are found to be found later because of DNA testing. But here's my take. I say let's change the prison system altogether and make it prison like they do in other countries. Let's really, you know, take the prisons and make them, you know, a venue of punishment. Send them to an island where they have to fend for themselves. Not, you know, an upscale resort where they're getting college educations, gym memberships, meals, and free room and board. I'm sorry, that to me is an incentive. There was an actual case where a man robbed a bank for $1 so he could go to prison because he didn't have health insurance. Yeah. And he wanted to go to prison so he could get health insurance. I mean, that just says it all. So I'm actually for, the death penalty is almost a cop-out because once they're dead, they're not suffering anymore. You kill somebody, you rape somebody, I think they should suffer, don't you?
Well, actually, I do agree, and I did work in the jail systems. I think you guys know, and they did refer to where I worked as a Marriott with the name of the county attached to it, which I don't think I should mention, but that they did call it that. And I saw that, in fact, yeah, that the victims were treated better than I'm sorry, that the perpetrators were treated better than the victims. Jenny, what do you think about it? What do you think about the death penalty?
Well, it's a really complicated issue for me. I mean, on one hand, I am really, really in favor of making sure that the person who gets punished is the correct person. And to me, if there is any doubt whatsoever, the death penalty should be totally off the table. But if we're absolutely 110% sure who it is, then my first thought is well, if we're sure that it's him, and if the death penalty is the correct penalty for the situation, that's great. It gets them completely gone. There's no chance of them escaping or getting parole or whatever. That's a good thing. On the other hand, I'm hearing Paula saying that maybe the death penalty is actually a cop-out. Maybe they really should suffer, and that's a really good point. And that the Refi person who typed in that the death penalty actually costs more money than keeping them alive, that's kind of a good point too. So, I'm really kind of waffling.
Yeah, she was, just so you know, Jenny, Refi was just talking about the appeal process and how expensive that was. And
that's a very good point. I mean, one thing we could do is make the appeal process cheaper somehow, but, I don't have any ideas on how one could possibly do that. So, taking that into account, that's really a good argument against the death penalty.
Okay. Okay, so Brian, I know you're ready to weigh in. I know you're ready to weigh in. Talk about it. What do you think?
I think maybe with some exceptions, but basically I will stand with Refi and Tina insofar as Refi's right about the appeal system. All that costs substantially more than life imprisonment would. If we want to make our prisons more like, at least for violent criminals, more like French prisons, I don't have too much to say against it. Although, I kind of think those white-collar criminals on Wall Street and in the big banks, who so far haven't even received a slap on the wrist, hardly, I think I would like to see them in prisons like Cherche-Midi or Les Beaumais. I mean, there might be some emotional satisfaction from either seeing them do the air dance or have their heads rolled, but basically, yeah, life imprisonment and Cherche-Midi ought to do the trick.
Okay, all right, thanks a lot. Paulie, you had something to add. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Okay, what I'd like to say is, why don't we make a deal with Turkey and we'll send our prisoners there. If anybody's ever watched Midnight Express, I think that might be a deterrent.
Yeah, I agree.
Prisoner swap program.
We could also buy Devil's Island from the French.
I think that's a good idea, Brian, too. Yeah, send them to Devil's Island in the Turkish prayer. The same with the one that was in the movie Midnight Express.
Anybody here to Papillon?
Okay.
Right, Papillon, absolutely. Great movie.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's go on, because we only have an hour, and I know that we're going to have something at the end with the politics. I want to continue on with the posts if we can. Your opinions on Lance Armstrong. So let me tell you, Refi had an opinion, and we thank Refi. Refi said if Lance Armstrong did use drugs and it was proven beyond a reasonable doubt, he should turn in his medals, money received from winning the Tour de France, and be banned from any future competition. I'm sure he will deny what the doping committees have said. Keith Cameron said he's a national embarrassment, and Dan Y. Goldfeder said, a good human being and a survivor who helped people with cancer. I would have to say he has helped people with cancer. I would hope that that's the case, because I'm sure that they're going to check into those monies. Sabrina Hayes said he's a disgrace and so hurtful to all the clean competitors out there. Brian Buddha said, cheating doper, invaluable cancer fighter, the first man to ride a bicycle on the moon. Lisa Newbold responded, sucks that he doped, disgraced him and tarnished his legacy, but has raised a buttload of money for cancer. We all make mistakes, unfortunately. His was really, really public. Let me start with you, Paula. What do you think about the doping bit? Because it seems to me that there's been evidence, and he has been told that he's going to have to return some money, and he was his medals were taken away. But what's your feelings about this?
I think he's a disgrace, Lisa. I'm sorry that he suffered with cancer, and I think I know people make mistakes, but when you're in the public spotlight like that, you're really held to another standard. You really are. I mean, it's like a double-edged sword. You're become rich, and with that becomes added responsibility. And there are so many athletes that have beaten cancer and have maintained their sport with integrity, and he hasn't done so. And I'll tell you, I was an athlete, and I guess that really makes this so offensive to me. And yeah, I just think that, look, what he did is now he's publicly embarrassed, and I think he deserves it, and definitely needs to be stripped of all his accolades. Definitely.
Okay, Brian, you're ready to pop in.
I think so. I've been listening pretty closely, because my opinion on Lance Armstrong is still, how shall we put it, not gelled as yet, but this much I will say. That he did dope is a disgrace, and it does sort of slap the honest competitors in the face, too, which I'm very strong against not slapping. I'm strong against slapping honest competitors here in the face, either in sports or in the economy as well. And indeed, I don't see how, essentially, Lance Armstrong is any less guilty than the people I mentioned last question, albeit concerning different matters. On the other hand, he did make something good of his own illness, his own cancer.
Okay.
I think, though, there ought to be a heavy penalty against him, and he's already had to forfeit his medals. And I think I would say I would probably make him return 50% of what he got from the endorsements and whatnot, at least 50%.
Okay.
As for the rest of it, I think, if he can still raise money for cancer, fine.
Right. His credibility is definitely going to be in check now, as we know. And I'm sure that the monies are going to be checked to make sure. Because the truth of the matter, in my opinion, and I will hit Jenny and I will hit Tina, is that, you doped, you lied. So that gives you a gray area where, you know what, now your money needs to be checked, because supposedly you were getting money for cancer. Jenny, talk to us about Lance Armstrong and what's your feelings, please.
Well, one thing I'm sure you would never guess about me, at least, not looking at my body now, I was trying really, really hard to make it to the 1988 Olympics. I was training really hard. Now, frankly, I wasn't good enough. I didn't make it. That's why you never saw me on the Olympics. I wasn't there. But I tried. And, I didn't use any sort of enhancements. It wouldn't have been fair, and I would have been pissed off if one of my competitors had used enhancement, and that was the reason they were better than me. Now, I believe all my competitors were better than me because they were better than me, but, I would have really been pissed off if they had cheated. And so that's that's exactly what I feel about Lance. Now, keeping in mind that as a human being, that's a totally different issue. I don't say that he's a horrible person who is worth nothing, because he's a human being. He made a mistake. But as an athlete, I am very, very much against that. That just makes me very angry.
It's cheating. Actually, as we know, it's cheating. Okay, so let me hit on Tina. Tina, your opinion on Lance Armstrong. What do you think he should do? I mean, is he a doper? Isn't he a doper? What do you think?
Well, I think, like Brian said, well, as long as his medals are, I don't believe he should have his medals. That there have been many athletes where they've lost their medals for those same reasons. But also, like Brian said, that he feels he should give back at least 50% of the money. Maybe he should take that money and donate it to cancer research.
Yeah,
that's a good idea, Tina. So the next topic, real quick, the post was, do you think people are born without a conscience? Can everyone be fixed with therapy, or do some people just have not have a workable conscience? Here's what Ruffy said: yes, no, and yes, in that order. And Lisa Newbold said no. I mean what Ruffy said: yes, no, or yes. So apparently, according to those two followers, they do think that people can be born without a conscience. They don't think everybody can be fixed, and they do think that some people just don't have a workable conscience. Now, when I raised this topic, basically, obviously, I was thinking along the lines of somebody that could murder or hurt somebody and go to sleep soundly each night. So this time I'm going to start off with Jenny. What do you think, Jenny?
Wow. I guess me first. Okay. Basically, I think yes. Some people really do have no conscience. I don't know why that could possibly be, but I've seen it. They just don't have one. And yeah, I honestly think that it must be somehow inborn in them. I mean, most of the time anyway. It's possible for you to get your conscience beaten out of you by a lousy life, and if that's the case, well, maybe you could be fixed with a lot of therapy if you wanted to be fixed. But I think that some people, they're just born that way, and if they don't have a conscience, there's nothing you can do. The best you can do is try and teach them how they should behave, but if they don't have a conscience, they only care if there's consequences to them.
I agree with that. And Tina, what's your feeling about that? Do you think people are actually born without a working conscience? Can they be fixed? Do you think that those people can be fixed?
No, I don't. And I have had a recent personal experience with a burglary. These people, I do know who they are.
Okay.
They know me, and they have been in prison before. I don't know them in a friendly manner. I know who they are.
We didn't think you associated with those people, Tina.
Right, no. But these people, they know that I know. They have just waved to me on the street like I'm supposed to say, hello, how are you today? And thank you for breaking into my home.
Huh.
So these people, they have not learned from their experiences. It hasn't been the first time they've been in prison. And I'm not talking jail, I'm talking prison. And I don't think that they'll ever change. So I believe there are people who do not have a conscience, who are born without one, and who cannot be helped.
Okay. Brian, I'm going to go to you, and then I'm going to go to Paul at the end. What's your feeling about the working conscience?
Well, let's see. I'd be willing to bet there are some people who are born without conscience. Part of the problem is, or will be perhaps, telling them apart from those who have had conscience beaten from them. And we usually think of psycho rapists or killers when this is mentioned. May I suggest that we also think of, and I'd like to put this to everybody too, Is it worse to lose no sleep over killing one person, or to lose no sleep over being the agent of ruin for millions, or of famine for tens of millions? Which is worse? Because I've read reports that Wall Street and the big banks may have an alarmingly high number of well-trained sociopaths among their ranks. So I would kind of agree with Refi with the asterisk that we need to tell one from the other, that is to say, those who have lost conscience and those who never had it. And no, not everybody can be fixed with any amount of therapy. The idea of people born without conscience sort of leads to the second answer. And what was the third part of the question? I'm sorry.
Well, first of all, I just need to let you know that it was Jenny that said the beaten out of you bit. It wasn't Ruffy. It was Jenny that said that. And I
borrowed from her.
No. I just want to be clear that Jenny had brought that topic up. The third bit of that question was, I'm sorry, Ruffy. I'm sorry that I forgot it, but was well, you answered it. It was basically a repeat of, do you think people are just born without a workable conscience?
Question is, once we find such people, what should we do with them? Maybe we should send them to Devil's Island?
I don't know, but that could be another topic on another week. Let me hit Paula up and see how Paula feels. Paula, what's your feeling about that? Do people have workable conscience, or people are born without a workable conscience? Can it be fixed?
We live in a sociopathic world. We become more sociopathic as generations pass, unfortunately. But you have your sociopaths like friend X. I have a friend who I no longer speak to, who I believe is a sociopath. Very self-centered. Actually, I know a couple people like that. I usually date them, but anyhow. You're not alone there, Paul. I have a tendency to be a magnet for sociopaths. I don't know why. But anyhow, they're really good looking. I guess I overlook it. But unless I find a head in the refrigerator, of course. That was a joke. But a toe I might not mind so much. But a head, anyhow, I think that there are people that are beyond help that are born without a conscience. And I think that those people, like the Ted Bundys or the Jeffrey Dahmers or the John Wayne Gacy's or the Adolf Hitlers, they're the monsters of society. But I think there's a lot of, sociopaths walking around that we know and we talk to every day, and they're not wired like I guess we are, or the norm, or maybe they are becoming the norm these days. And those people can't be helped because they don't steal. So, but the funny thing is sociopaths don't think they need help. They think they're perfect. And I'll tell you, that's a telltale sign. If you have somebody in your life who's never wrong, run, Forrest, run.
Can I say something?
Because they'll drain you, and they're sociopaths.
Yeah, Brian's got go ahead, Brian. You had something that you wanted to add.
I just want to take a little bit of issue with it being a sociopathic world. I heard something recently that of the bones that have been found of our prehistoric ancestors, 1/6 of them, about 15% or so, have signs of being done in by another hominid, by a fellow human.
Probably an ancestor of my ex.
What I'm getting to is the death and violence rate has, with some intervals during the time of civilization, steadily gone down. Even during World War II, the death rate was only 3 to 5% of the human race. I mean, that is to say, the killing rate was only that. And it is continuing to go down. I think, though, as the world gets smaller, we just hear more about sociopaths and such like, which, of course, colors our perception.
Okay, I'd like to add something, even though I'm the moderator here, but I believe this. I believe that we kind of have an attitude that we live in a disposable society, and I think that we're a big part of that. However, should I hurt somebody, I tend to notice that, and I go back and say, wait a minute, I'm sorry. But if I was hiding bodies in my refrigerator, it's doubtful that I would go to sleep at night, sound. So,
I hope not.
yeah, I mean, right.
Especially if the bodies were alive, that might keep you awake. Might be a little noisy in that refrigerator.
Sounds like zombie whoop.
Let us out, let us out, let us out.
Look, I'm too close to the ketchup. Move me. Move me.
Zombie too.
All right, so let's go on to the next post here. One of the posts says, if you could undo or change one moment of world history, what would it be and how would you change it? And here, Reffy, she says, I don't know how I could change this. Hitler should have been aborted. Then we have Josie, and Josie says, I was going to say I would have stopped Hitler's conception. Great minds think alike, laugh out loud. Brian Buddha said, aborting Hitler or killing him as a baby is no better than what he did. You want to change history by changing one moment. Make sure Hitler didn't get the assignment to spy on the fledgling National Socialist Party while in the army. Had he not gone to that meeting, Hitler would not have been introduced and influenced by a less than minor group of I'm sorry, I can't read the word, of bad, yeah, I think so. I should have made this bigger, I apologize. And Ruffy said, Brian, I beg to differ with you, Hitler. I mean, 1 man, 6 million Jews, big difference. Lisa Newbold wrote, maybe getting Hitler counseling as a child so he didn't become the monster he became, or just that his art was appreciated so he would never be taken as, he would have never taken, wait a minute, so that he never took the dictator role. So Paula, you have something very strong to say here. I mean,
well, definitely. I mean, Hitler is top on my list, of course. I lost family in the Holocaust, and they should have just let the dude into art school. He could have, done some really messed up, crazy looking, surreal paintings, and been done with it. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. But I think that if I could change something in history, I don't know. I think I'd go back quite further to possibly the birth of Ishmael and what happened with that. Because when you think about what's happening now, what's been happening since time immemorial between two brothers, Ishmael and Isaac, and, I think that I would have gone back in time and found, some different way of what happened, because that has sparked, fighting for forever. But, as far as modern history, definitely, I like what Rev said about aborting Hitler, or, making sure that he never rose to prominence. But you know what? That begs the question, if Hitler, would there have been another Hitler? Because Germany was ripe for finding somebody because of the state of their economy and how, they were in such despair after they were hobbled after World War I. Would there have been another creature, maniac, that would have, risen to power and been another Hitler? Was Adolf Hitler just a symptom? So, that begs the question. So I don't know, we could have aborted, thousands of Hitlers, and there might have been another one waiting in the trenches. You never know.
Okay. Jenny, I'm going to go to you.
Yay. Well, first of all, on the Hitler thing, I definitely agree with that. I understand that Hitler was not only rejected from art school, but that the people on the board who rejected him were Jewish people, which was part of why, I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that from multiple sources.
That is rumored. I don't, again, that's speculation.
But if it's true, it's like, well, obviously, if they had just let him in, he personally would not have been the problem. Now, somebody else, like Paula was saying, somebody else might very well have just taken his place, though. So I don't think that, changing Hitler's personal history would probably have changed the world quite so much. Could be wrong, but it just doesn't seem like it seems like Hitler was the disease and not the symptom, if that makes sense.
Okay.
He was the person who did stuff that stuff might very well have happened anyway, or similar stuff. I mean, maybe the replacement Hitler might not have gone after the Jews. Maybe the replacement Hitler might have been more interested in, if there were any Muslims, I don't know, killing off Muslims or whatever.
Right.
You just don't really know.
Okay. Okay, that's a good point.
Lisa, can I just add something to that? Jenny brought up an interesting point.
Go ahead. You're
on.
on.
Hitler actually, Jenny, worked with the Mufti of Jerusalem, a Muslim, during that time.
I did not know.
Yes, he was working hand in hand with the head Muslim, radical Muslim, if you will, the Mufti of Jerusalem, who was complicit in the Holocaust and the killings of the Jews. So, yeah, I don't think he would have gone after that. And you have to remember that Hitler went after the Jews because at the time the Jews were internationalists. When Germany's country was failing economically, there was this family called the Rothschilds, and they owned all the banks. And there was a Rothschild in France, and there was one in England, and there was one in Germany. They were all over the world. So the Jews were able to manage and transfer. They were blamed by Hitler. They were a perfect scapegoat. And one can trace back. It's rumored that Hitler is actually half Jewish because they can't really trace his paternity. They don't know, but they do say that Jews denied him entry into art school, but that again is a rumor. But Jews were just a perfect scapegoat to him, and that's why he targeted them. And it's still happening today.
Okay, so I want to go to Tina. Tina, if you could change one thing in history, and it doesn't have to be, we don't have to stay on the Hitler topic because it really wasn't a Hitler topic per se. It's just what people responded on. But if you could change one thing in history, what would it be?
Honestly, I would need more time to think about that, and I apologize for not having an answer for that. But first, I'd like to tell all of you, thanks for the history lesson, because there are things about Hitler that I had no idea that you're all bringing up. Now, the question is asking, or not really the question, but the responses that have been given in regards to Hitler. The question is if we could change it. Obviously, we can't change things. But if we could, and Hitler was not ever born, and we could have avoided all of that would have been wonderful. And then it goes back to the question of, are people born with a conscience or without a conscience? And there you go. I don't think he could have been changed regardless. So
let me go to Brian on this. And I'm not trying to hurry people up, but we got a few more posts, and then I want to get into a political talk. So Brian, if you could change one thing in history, and it does not have to be Hitler. I know that the topic has brought us there because it was appalling. I want to say this: there are modern day Hitlers today, as we already know.
Yes.
So, please, if you could change any point in history, Brian, what would it be?
I think what I would change is, let's see. Originally, I thought maybe I'd change something in accordance with one of my philosophical mentors, Eric Hoffer, said. He said, had there been no Lenin, there would have been no Hitler. I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I think in in that respect, maybe I would have somebody push Lenin in front of an oncoming train at the Zurich station, maybe. But there are other things related to that as well. I kind of asked myself, would I want, say, the Archduke and Archduchess of Austria-Hungary to have taken a different route in Sarajevo? So they wouldn't have been assassinated. That wouldn't have been the start of World War I. And I would also like to address a thing or two brought up by some other people here. Somehow, however tolerant the Habsburgs were in Vienna, I don't think they would have had any Jews on, imperial school boards like the School of Art. Allow me to doubt that fairly healthily. And also, the Rothschilds, as I think you said, Paula, were just visible. They didn't have anywhere near the power still credited to them by a lot of people.
Yes, they did. Yes, they absolutely.
Well,
yes, they did. Absolutely.
I'm reluctant to go with that because it sort of gives back to maybe those who would scapegoat other Jews as well. No, I don't want to do that. I think most of the bankers, even today, are Gentiles, which is no doubt why there's corruption even in the LIBOR rate today. But let that be for another day. And I think, on balance, I would have somebody push Lenin in front of an oncoming train.
Okay, and I hate to do this, but the final post, and the reason why this is because we have to get into the politics bit, but if you could have dinner with one world leader, alive or dead, who would it be, and what would you ask them? Reffy says, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Question would be, why don't you take care of yourself? We need good leaders now. Cindy says, what should be done in Vietnam for JFK? And Lisa Newbold says, Gandhi, how'd you do it? So this time I'm going to start with Brian.
Okay.
So, Brian, the question is, if you could have dinner with anyone, any one world leader, dead or alive, who would it be and what would you ask them?
I think it would be my man Harry Truman. And I'm not sure, I need to think a little bit about what I would ask him. I think I would ask him, what was the most difficult decision of his time as president? Mostly I would want to concur with Churchill that Truman, more than any other man, saved Western civilization.
Okay, very good. Paula, who would you like to have dinner with? What would you ask them?
Wow, it would be a toss-up between Golda Meir and Winston Churchill. I probably, my favorite leader is Golda Meir, hands down. I would just sit with her and pick her brain because she's so amazing, and ask her for what she would do right now to help the United States. What would be her plan? And I would hope to engage our current, whoever was leading the country at the time, and give him tips, because the last couple presidents have not done a good job.
Okay, very good. I want to go ahead to Jenny.
Well, I thought a lot about that when that question showed up, and I think I picked Abraham Lincoln because he just has this mystique about him. I read a biography about him, and he, once upon a time, and he was, a simple farm boy, effectively, although he did know how to read, so he wasn't totally simple. But, he had very humble beginnings, and yet somehow or another he managed to become great and become a president, and still at the same time managed to keep the humbleness and the honesty that that were his core values when he grew up. And most people, if they start humble and they become something really great, they tend to lose it. they can always go, well, I had this humble background, blah, 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 and they'll pull it out when they need it, but it's not there anymore. And he managed to keep it. And I would just like to talk to him about how it is that he managed to be what he, who he was.
Okay, great. Tina, same question. If you could have dinner with any world leader, dead or alive, who would it be and what would you ask them?
Well, with history not being my extreme strong point, I really couldn't think of anybody that way offhand, but I'd like to have dinner with Jesus Christ and ask him, am I doing it right? What else can I do?
All right.
So that would be my answer.
Jesus Christ?
Too.
Okay.
I would like to have dinner with.
Okay, and just so that you know, I would want to have dinner with JFK and ask him how needy was Marilyn Monroe, actually. There was another post, and I'm going to do it differently next week as far as pulling them off earlier than an hour before. We did have a post about God. I don't honestly think that we should reach out to that because it there was only really one response besides the people on that are on the informants panel, besides Pat Tibbs, and she said that she didn't spend a lot of time thinking about God. I don't know whether there is one, and I don't really care. I have a moral life, but it's the right thing to do. And she lives a moral life. It's the right thing to do. Lisa Newbold said that she believed that she was perfect and made from perfect God, but perfect in her own imperfections. And I think I'd like to leave that post there if I could, because I think that God is a hot topic, and who God is to everybody, I think is a personal thing. Do I have everybody's agreement on that for this week?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'd just like to ask the first writer a question briefly. How do we know what right is? And leave it at that. That can be for next time.
Okay, you can't leave it at that, Brian, because I'll tell you why. It goes back into the conscience bit, and I think we actually have a moral fiber that tells us what's right and what's not right. So, I mean, right might be too broad of a thing to bring God into it. However, again, it goes back to the conscience issue of, when you're doing something wrong and you don't care or you care. And that's if you have a workable conscience, I believe.
Right.
So, what I'd like...
Not sure at all, but let that be.
Well, Brian, I don't want to cut you off, so, I mean, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off, so go ahead. Seriously.
No, I said let's let that be.
Oh, okay. All right, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and bring up political posts that people actually messaged and asked us to please put on the site. And that post is, sorry again for this, there's a question by a follower that's asking, those supporting Mitt Romney, how can you justify his flip-flopping on issues? Paula, I'm going to start with you on this because I believe you're a Romney supporter, and I just want to know how you feel about it, and then I'm going to go to Brian on it, if I can.
Okay. Lisa, actually, I'm a Romney supporter by default because Obama is such a disaster. I don't love Romney, but he is the lesser of the evils. Yeah, he flip-flops, and so does every other presidential candidate. So does every other politician. I mean, Obama has flip-flopped back and forth on pretty much every issue as well. But he's, the media darling, and the media won't point that out, but they'll lambaste Romney every chance they get. Romney, is speaking to his base. I believe him to be a moderate, not a conservative. He's proven that in his leadership. He is speaking to his base right now to get the votes, and that's what every candidate does. And Obama, what scares me is, Romney might flip-flop on what he says, but Obama I wish he'd flip-flop on what he did, because he's proven to be a disaster to our country, an absolute disaster in every level. Our economy is worse off. The unemployment, numbers just came out the other day. They're higher than when he took office. Our economy is worse. Number one is national security. It's got to trump everything right now with, Iran inching towards nuclear weapons. Obama has bungled the Middle East. I could spend hours talking about it, but obviously this isn't we don't have the time. But Romney is the lesser of the evils, and, I really hope he wins.
Okay, Brian, respond to that, please.
Well, for me, it's the other way around. I'm no great fan of Obama's, but he is head and shoulders above Romney. Romney is querulous, first of all. Yes, politicians do flip-flop, they put spin on, but the Romney campaign has been so eye-poppingly egregious as to dwarf anything I've ever seen, for sure, and I've been watching campaigns since 1968. I would also point out that national security is multidimensional, and my question is, what good is it if we return from a victorious war in Iran only to discover the country has been gutted and sold up? That's what I think we're looking at in the event of Romney's victory. I think with Obama, there is still more of a chance and at least somewhat more space to remedy our problems both at home and abroad.
Because he's done such a great job so far, right, Brian?
He's done a good job.
He has. How do you define, if you define good as we're swimming in the toilet and we're on the brink of becoming a third world country, then I guess he's done a good job. He's done a good job for,
2.5 years of steady economic growth.
Where is this steady economic growth?
Job growth.
On Mars? A job growth?
Yes.
What kind of job growth? People are, what kind of job growth?
The faux news line that
every poll, I'm sorry, that's wrong. The Department of Labor, which is nonpartisan, released the unemployment numbers just 2 days ago. They're higher than when he came into office.
Wait a minute, guys, I want it. Well, hang on. So go ahead, Paula, and then.
Okay, private sector jobs? Where has he grown private sector jobs? He has not grown the economy, period. And all he does is he blames Bush. Okay, it's not Bush's fault anymore. It's 4 years later. He can't blame Bush. Okay, sorry. Wrong. Okay, he did Gumby. Look, Gumby's out of a job. Gumby is out of a job. Gumby's really upset.
Can I reply?
Yes, Brian, I want you to reply, please.
Well, on the very day of Obama's inauguration, the Republicans were making up their minds that they weren't going to give him a millimeter. Anybody here know the...
He had a super majority.
No, he didn't.
365 days. Yes, he did.
No. And another thing. I was about to ask, does anybody know the post-Civil War song, "Oh, I'm a Good Old Rebel"?
Are we going to go with the racism line again?
Oh, yes, we are, actually.
Okay. Because we're all in the KKK if we don't like it, right?
The Republican leadership was that of unreconstructed Reds. On them all.
Guess who started the KKK? The Democrats, Brian.
That was a long time ago. The Democrats and Republicans have sort of switched.
I understand that, but you know what? I'm sorry. Okay, you know what I find absolutely hilarious? That you're gonna sit here and call. You know what? Yes, I believe there's racists in every political party. I believe it's not. It's not just the Republicans. There's racists in with the Democratic Party as well. But you know what I find hilarious? You're talking about a president that spent 20 years in a church led by a man, the Reverend Jeremiah Wright, who hated Jews, who hated white people, who spoke against Americans, who was glad that 9/11 happened, who would scream, God damn America, God damn America, who hated Jews, who hated Louis Farrakhan, the highest award that you could get in the church. This was Obama's, not just his reverend, his best friend, his spiritual advisor, his mentor. Okay, this is where he spent 20 years, and you're going to call the Republicans racist? What about our president? Not only has he shown in his past that he had a close affiliations with known Jew haters and white haters, okay? But look at his track record on Israel. And don't throw some article written by some J Street self-hating Jew about how Obama's good to Israel, because he isn't. He's the most hostile president we've ever had to our strongest ally, period. And that is a fact. So before you call the Republicans racists, let's acknowledge the fact that Obama himself is a racist and an anti-Semite.
Hang on a second, because Brian, we don't have sound from you. Brian, we don't have sound from you.
That's because the sound is racist.
Hang on.
Yeah, I did. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. No, I will not acknowledge. I don't believe Obama is anti-Semitic or racist. And I'll tell you why.
Why?
First, let me ask you this. Do you think the raison d'etre of Jeremiah Wright's church, or for that matter, the Nation of Islam, do you think their raison d'etre is racism? That's first.
Do I think they're what?
Their reason for being is racist.
I don't even understand. What does that mean?
You mean, are they built around racism as such? Do you know?
Again, Brian, I don't understand. I'm sorry, Lisa. You're probably going to have to edit this.
My point is here, that I saw some white faces in Jeremiah Wright's congregation a few years ago. They're still there. That's number one. Two, I think at least Jeremiah Wright's church, racism and anti-Semitism are at best peripheral matters, barely relevant to most of the people there. I mean, let's face it, it ain't all about us. It ain't all about us.
Hold on a second. Let me just phrase that. Okay. The man has pounded his fist on his pulpit, calling white people blue-eyed devils, calling Jews guttural religions many times. Wait, Brian, let me finish.
Two are different individuals.
Excuse me?
Hang on 1 second. You gotta let the person finish so that this can. You gotta let.
Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Louis Farrakhan, Brian, Jeremiah Wright has also called Judaism a guttural religion as well. Louis Farrakhan said it. Jeremiah Wright parroted it. He also gave Louis Farrakhan the highest tribute award of that church. Now, let me tell you something. This wasn't a remote peripheral speech, and even if it was, I would find that troubling. Let me tell you, I'm Jewish, and I only go to temple on the high holidays. If I went to a temple and my rabbi made one comment during his speech against any ethnic group, I would be out of there faster than your yarmulke could spin. Okay? So before you could say gefilte fish, I'd be out of there. So don't try to make excuses for this anti-Semitic, anti-American, anti-white reverend that Obama was friends with. And let's just not forget his other close affiliations while he was in college. This is heavily documented. And you know what? Why don't you read his book, Dreams of My Father, that was written before he got into politics, because he's a megalomaniac and was writing autobiographies before he was even into politics, where he himself was saying how he doesn't like the white, basically, sort of taking pot shots at white people. Read it.
Depends on what.
His own words.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well,
I haven't read Obama's book, first of all.
well, read them. Then how could you say that he's not a racist? I've read his books. I've read Dreams of My Father 3 times and Audacity of Hope twice.
I rather suspect I will see it differently when I read it, because, again, different context. And also, there's a difference between somebody who has the power to put such biases into action and those that don't.
Yes.
There's a difference between, say, to use a southern, to paint a southern picture from the South, there's a difference between talk in, say, a juke joint at night and what an all-white state legislature or even citizens council in a locality has the power to do.
Okay, hang on a second there, because I want to get the other hosts involved here. The first question that started all of this, End.formants site, was, if you were the president of the United States, which issue would you address that you find most important? And that could be a personal issue, because some of us are struggling in this economy, and that would be their first choice, as opposed to people that seem to be okay in this economy right now, and they're more concerned about nuclear war. So I'm going to go to you, Jenny, first. If you were the president of the United States, what would you address the most?
Well, there are 3 things that I would like to address, but you said one, so the one and only thing I'm going to talk about is the environment. Because, frankly, the whole world is going to hell. And, I mean, yeah, economically too, yes, but, you know, we're cutting down trees worldwide, particularly in the Amazon forest. We're poisoning the air and the water. We're using up all the oil, and we're throwing it all up. I know somebody's probably going to argue with me about whether global warming is real, but I say it is. Glad to hear that. But I mean, there's just so much wrong with the environment, and most of it is human fault. And what's not human fault is still something we could do something about. And we are the worst polluting nation of the world. We need to do something about it. And we need to do something about it yesterday. And I mean, sure, we have many other problems that need addressing too. I'm not saying that that's the only problem in the world, but it is a huge one, and every single candidate is just completely ignoring it, or, you know, making a few mild speeches and gestures and whatever. That, to me, is the issue of the day.
Okay, Tina, I'm going to go to you. Tina Perna, if you were president of the United States, what would you address?
There are many things, Jenny, like you said, there are many things that need to be addressed. But I do have some personal issues that I am going through myself. And recently losing a job along with my health benefits, which are very important to me, as they are to many people. I have found that in my, transition stage to my next phase of my life and my career, there is no help for anyone in my age group. Unless I'm over 65 or have children or many, many children under the age of 19, I am pretty much, and sorry, but I'm screwed. And I have a problem with that. And nobody ever addresses that group of people. So, you know, they say they do, middle class, whatever. Again, I'm not big with the politics issues. I'm not very good with it. Brian and Paula, you're wonderful. I'm, again, enjoying the lesson. However, that is something that's really big for me. And there's a lot of people that fall in that category. And I think that they would like to see something done about that as well.
Right, I agree. And I just want to bring up this post, and Paula and then Brian can answer, but I want to bring up this post from a follower who got me personally on my personal site and said, okay, if you could please ask these questions. First, the founder of Home Depot had threatened that if you vote for Obama, you will be laid off. So all the generators he's donating, selling to the people from the Northeast. 2, ask Romney voters. Romney has stated in the past to do away with FEMA. Okay, in the light of Hurricane Sandy, do we now know his statement on that? 3, why should this country not have health care, which Tina was talking about, for all Americans, that even though it might not be the best health care because the wealthy people will be able to choose their doctor of choice, but why can't the rest of Americans have health care like the poor do with Medicaid? So Paula, talk to us about issues. I brought up the 3 things that this one person has in particular. They kind of go hand in hand with what Tina was talking about. They seem to be in favor of Obama, but they're important issues to people of the middle class. I know that you have a very strong opinion about nuclear war and what's going on there, and I feel you. So I want you, and then I'm going to ask Brian, but, can you address this?
Yes. Actually, Lisa, I think the number one issue should be national security, and the reason being is we have no other choice because, again, Iran is close to nuclear weapons. So is North Korea. We have no other choice than to have national security as our number one issue. But I am in favor of Obamacare. I do applaud the president for doing that, with the caveat that nobody really knows what the bill says. It's very secretive. It's so long and convoluted that nobody really knows. And thing is will it cover illegal immigrants? Because that that can't happen. I'm all for legal immigration, but not illegal immigration. And what's really scary is, my father passed away. He was in a nursing home. You should have seen the fight that my mom had to go through to get him on Medicaid. This is a World War II veteran that fought for his country. And, I have a friend that her father was here illegally. And the second he entered America, he got free health care, paid by our tax dollars. Not illegally he's here. That's not right. I'm sorry.
I agree. I agree 100%.
It's just crazy. So I am for Obama. I applaud him. I think that's something that we need. But I just want to go back to what Brian was saying a few minutes ago about somebody's racist if they put it into action. Well, or anti-Semitic. Well, Obama has put his anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiments into action. Aside from his, taking every opportunity to cast Israel as the aggressor and as the bully, calling them, using the loaded word occupation when he's made his speeches, asking Israel or demanding Israel to go back to the indefensible 1967 borders that they won in defensive wars. By the way, no other country in history has been ever asked to give back land that they won. And Israel won only after being attacked. But Obama appointed anti-Semites to key positions, such as the anti-Israel Rosa Brooks as advisor to the Undersecretary of Defense Robert Malley, who Obama appointed as one of his primary foreign advisors. He engaged in anti-Israel activism prior to his debut into politics. And he was also a close friend of Yasser Arafat. What about Joseph Cipriani, who Obama appointed as an advisor to non-proliferation? He's also notoriously anti-Israel. Also in 2009, Obama appointed former Republican senator, known anti-Semite, anti-Israel Chuck Hagel as his intelligence aide, okay? And another one Obama appointed was Hannah Rosenthal to head the office to monitor and combat anti-Semitism. Rosenthal is the daughter of Holocaust survivors, but she leans strongly with the Palestinians and has deep sympathy for them. Rosenthal has written many scathing articles suggesting that Israel's policies are to blame for anti-Semitism, okay? So Obama goes and appoints anti-Israel lobbyists to the highest post to fight anti-Semitism. That's like appointing Charles Manson to chair the Committee for Citizens Crime Watch. I mean, come on.
Okay, so I want to let Brian respond to that, Paula.
I want to know one thing. Where does Paula find this out? Where?
It's called books.
Like what?
I don't know. I invented it, Brian, because I'm the Grand Kegel of the KKK. I mean, come on. I mean, what do you think? I just made all this up. I don't know. It's called.
But there are certain websites I take.
Okay, Brian. It's all over. Listen. Okay, if I may say this, before I say something and I put it in writing, I make sure it's completely correct. I have done thorough research using multiple sources, books, reputable websites on both sides of the aisle. This is true. Go do the research. You'll find it.
Send me a list.
It's not in the book, and you know what? It's not in the manual of the Grand Kegel of the KKK, as you might would believe.
I didn't think so. But on the other hand, well, first.
Okay, Rose, are you telling me? Rose, are you telling me Chuck Hagel is not anti-Semitic?
I don't know. I don't know who Chuck
not
Hagel
anti-Semitic?
is. I don't know who he is.
You don't know who Chuck Hagel? Okay, well, I'm telling you who he is, and I'm telling you.
That's why I'm asking you to send me a list of websites and books.
I've done so before.
Okay, wait a minute. I got something to say here. I want to plug in here. Hang on one second. You know, I had the blessing in disguise of, I tend to watch CNN at my home. I spent the weekend with a relative, and I was bombarded by Fox News. So I really did, and I was benefited because they're talking two different sides here. And I think, being that we're supposed to be voting tomorrow, Tuesday, because this will air Monday night, that, you know, in all honesty, as responsible Americans, if we're going to vote, then we should do this research. And I put up a couple weeks ago, listen, I spent 48 hours watching Fox News. It was totally enlightening, and it told a different spin on what's going on with politics as far as what CNN is saying, and it's actually made me an undecided voter. So, that being said, I also want to say something else that's very important. Bless you, Jenny.
Bless you.
But I want to say, bless you again, that it was brought to my attention.
Very racist.
I know.
I heard him sneeze some racist comments subliminally.
I want to say this, that even if people aren't going to vote in the big election, to please make sure to go out and vote anyway, because there's municipalities that that everybody can vote on, and they're local government. So please, you know, even if you're not going to vote on the big race, you know, you do still need to go out there and vote. However, I did want to mention that because that's something that's nobody has really mentioned. And so anyway, Brian, I've got the camera on you. I need you to pull it down a little bit so we can see. Yeah, okay, there you go. So Brian, I mean, Paula brought up some pretty valid points. And you know, I just want to know, you know, about your response, because I know that you're a strong Obama, you know, that you're going to vote for the man, and is it because you think he's the lesser of two evils, or do you really believe in Obama?
The former, the lesser of two evils. My complaint with him, though, is less that he is not so much that he is not Bibi's loyal subordinate, justice has not been served as regards the men, and it is largely the men, who crashed our economy, who crashed it in large part deliberately. I mean, and we want to give power back to those guys? I certainly don't. And Mitt Romney he's them, embodied.
Paula, I know you got a response to that. I see your hand up in the air.
Okay, well, Brian, if you want to blame somebody for crashing the economy, blame it on George Soros, who, by the way, is Obama's puppet master.
Puppet master?
He's the puppet master, Bonnie. You know George Soros, the head of the fund, the key funder of MoveOn.org.
Oh, God.
I think Brian's about to lay an egg. It was George Soros.
Obama's puppet master. Yes.
He is Obama's puppet master. He absolutely is. And you know, good old George Soros helped work with, even though he was born a Jew, the reason he survived the Holocaust is he posed as a Nazi and helped the Nazis confiscate his property.
Wait a minute. Before, Paula, you got to do something. You're too dark. There you go. Okay, so wait a minute. Hang on a sec. Wait a minute. Paula, you were saying that go ahead was the puppet master, and Brian was laughing. So I want you to continue on with that, or Brian, I want you to say something in defense of laughing, because in laughing you're really not saying anything.
This conspiracy theory rot I have heard before and thought, and I have read things which basically tear it apart.
It's not a conspiracy theory.
Well,
where's your sources? Whatever.
Yeah.
Nah.
Oh yeah, whatever you want to call it. It's there's precious little, if any, proof of it. But it's something.
How about all the money that they found that George Soros is he not the founder of MoveOn.org?
No.
He isn't?
No.
He doesn't fund MoveOn.org.
I don't know. No, actually he doesn't. All their only funding is the $7 million they raised from however many subscribers they have, and MoveOn.org was founded collectively by the people who are still there. George Soros got nothing to do with it.
Really? Is that why he gave $1.46 million to MoveOn.org just this year alone?
Well, I don't know where that figure comes from, but MoveOn.org
His own website?
What?
His own website?
His own website?
Yes.
I've never been there. I will have to check that.
Okay. Maybe the Grand Teagle put it there, like hacked into his website.
No, not the Grand Teagle. Maybe Mayor Kahani's reincarnation.
I guess I want to go ahead and I want to talk to Jenny for a second. Jenny,
Yes.
And you don't have to answer this. Are you going to vote on Tuesday?
Of course.
Okay.
I think everybody who's allowed to vote should vote.
Okay, but go ahead, Jenny. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And by allowed to vote, I meant old enough to vote and an American citizen and register.
Right.
And Jenny, and you don't have to disclose. Would you like to share who you're going to vote for?
I'm going to vote for Obama.
Okay. All right. I guess the next question would be, why are you going to vote for Obama? What do you like about President Obama?
Well, there are several things that I like about him and several things that I hate about his opponent. And anyway, one of the things that I like about Obama is that while it may have been a little bit late, it came. He said that he is in favor of homosexual marriage. Now, I suppose I should share right now that I am in a homosexual marriage. My wife and I have been together since we moved into the same house in 1995. We got legally married in 1996, and then I guess it was 2-3 years ago now, I can't remember the exact date, the people in my state voted to make my marriage illegal. Now, call it personal if you want, but I kind of think that they shouldn't have been allowed to do that. I wasn't hurting them. Most of the people in my state never even knew I existed. I'm not exactly out there screaming about it from the top of my rooftop. And even if I was, only the local neighbors would have been able to hear it. But, I don't think that I hurt anybody. I'm just me. And if my marriage was somehow or another a problem for you people over there in Arizona or wherever, I'd like to know how.
Okay, Paula's got her hand up, so let me go to Paula on that one. Paula.
Okay, Jenny, I applaud you, and I hope that gay marriage is legalized one day in the United States. Then I'll have to leave the country because I never want to get married because I'm also gay.
All right.
I'd like to ask you, who said, excuse me, who said in 2008, I believe that marriage is the union between a man and a woman?
1,000,001 people.
Right. That was Barack Obama. Barack Obama said on April 17, 2008, I believe that marriage is the union between a man and a woman.
Yes, he did.
And he also said on November 2nd, 2008, I believe marriage is between a man and a woman. I am not in favor of gay marriage. Now, that was Barack Obama in 2008. Obama is now, he's needing the gay vote, so he is going to say whatever he needs to say.
True.
Guess who, okay, let me ask you, who passed the most anti-gay pieces of legislation ever passed? What president? Just a quiz.
I know you want me to say
whoever answers this gets a kiss from Gumby.
That's not an incentive.
Well, I'll give you the answer. That is Bill Clinton, a Democrat. He signed DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, into federal law.
And your point is what?
My point is that Democrats, Republicans, their platform might be anti-gay, but the Democrats have signed the most anti-gay piece of legislation in history against gay people, and Obama opposed gay marriage when he ran in 2008. Now, I know he's going to say whatever he needs to say now to win re-election, so he's got to woo the gay vote, just like he's got to woo the Jewish vote. He's just saying what he needs to say. It's political posturing.
Okay, hang on a second, Paula. Jenny's got her hand up. Jenny.
Okay. Well, we all know that Obama said that he was not in favor of gay marriage then, and he's saying that he is now. So
well, he's just saying it because he wants to win the gay vote.
My turn.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, he's saying it because he wants to win the gay vote. True. That said, at least he said it. He said it. He said he changed his mind. Now, maybe he's lying. You could certainly argue that he's lying. But, let me finish my sentence, please. But, guess who has not said the same thing at all? His opponent, Mitt Romney. For me, I will take the politician who has at least said something positive about gay marriage over the politician who has said nothing positive about gay marriage during this campaign.
I could say I love you, then punch you in the stomach, but that doesn't mean I love you. Okay? I could say that. I could, seriously, I could say I'm a vegan and then go eat a Big Mac. It doesn't mean that I'm a vegan.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you something. Mitt Romney hasn't said it, but you know what, Jenny? Let me ask you a second. Mm-hmm. What's more important to you? Being, gay marriage in the United States, or having in America to be gay in and not having to be stoned to death because you're gay? What's more important to you? A candidate that is saying he's for gay marriage, or a candidate that is willing to defend America from nuclear rogue nations that stone women because they don't wear a burqa? Just curious.
What happens in other nations is not really our business, and
Well,
we shouldn't be making it our business.
But Jenny, it's our business if those nations want to kill us and want to impose Sharia law on Americans. Then it's our business. When 9/11 happened and we saw that we're vulnerable and that 3,000 of our fellow Americans died that day, it showed that we're vulnerable. And I'll tell you something, I'm more concerned about having a country, the greatest country on earth, that we can be free to be whatever we want, regardless if a Republican's in office or a Democrat's in office. What I don't want is a country that's under Sharia law because rogue nations are getting nuclear weapons and are going to play nuclear holocaust with the world and thrust us into a nuclear war. That scares me more than having a candidate who's going to say he's pro-gay marriage.
Well, are you sure that if we actually manage to get all of this security that we aren't going to have some sort of Judeo-Christian regime?
Taliban.
Yeah, the Judeo-Christian equivalent of the Taliban, whatever that might be. There's a really, really huge coalition of people who are becoming more and more adamant about wanting their values imposed on other people.
Right, Jenny.
Well, it's not going to happen under Mitt Romney. Let me tell you, wait. If that didn't happen under George Bush, if that didn't happen under George W. Bush, who, had a direct line to God and was talking to him, it was probably the alcohol he was drinking. But, if that didn't happen under the evangelical George W. Bush, it's certainly not going to happen under Mitt Romney, I can assure you.
Mitt Romney is Bush on steroids.
No, he isn't. Mitt Romney is such a moderate that his own base calls him Obama Light. Come on, Brian. Mitt Romney is such a moderate then when he was Massachusetts, the governor of Massachusetts.
He now to losing religious rights.
He was also,
Too much
I'm sorry. He's a moderate. He is a moderate. He was pro-gay. He was pro-choice. Yes, he was. Do your research.
Okay, I want to go to Tina, because Tina didn't respond. And Tina, you don't have to. Again, you do not have to respond. But, Tina, are you going to vote on Tuesday? And if so, are you going to share with us who you're going to vote for?
Honestly, I still am undecided on my candidate, and I'm undecided on voting. They both have things that I am for, like Jenny said. I am not gay, but I love many people who are, and I feel that they should have that right to be married as well. But my feeling is this: at the end of the day, okay, Paula, here's for you. I pray to God about things, and I would like a president that prays as well to God.
Okay.
So,
Well, that's not
You
Obama.
know that Mitt Romney is a Mormon, right?
I understand that.
Okay.
He's a little closer than Obama would be. But like I said, I'm still torn between the two. I don't really, right now I could honestly tell you, I am torn, but I don't believe Obama believes in God or a nation under God.
That's a good point, Tina. That was a good point. Paula's got her hand up. She's got something to say. Paula.
You know what? I liked what Tina said, because when you take God out of the equation, God help us. But on the other hand, it's scary. It's really the last time that we merged church and state. The last time, I shouldn't say we merged. The last time church and state were merged, people were stoned to death. You cannot have church and state. You can't do it. And I do not believe that Mitt Romney would do it.
Hang on a second, Brian. Go ahead, Paula. Continue. I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
But Tina, you're right. I don't believe Obama is a god. I think Obama is a good man. I do, but I don't necessarily think that he is a very spiritual god. And he has said that he has really pushed quite a secular agenda. He really wants to take, what he did with contraception and the Catholic institutions was quite appalling. I mean, I'm all for contraception. Look, I think that Republicans are pro-fetus. They're not pro-life, because once the baby is born, they could care less. Let's be honest. But you can't force Catholic institutions to provide birth control. I'm sorry, that's just wrong.
Okay, hang on a second. Brian's got his hand up. He's got something to say. Brian.
Yes, I do. First of all, we need to broaden the church-state separation. It needs now to be separation between religion and state. This is the linchpin of what the Muslim world is, I guess, starting to learn. It's going back in Turkey, and that's not...
The radical Muslim world. The radical Muslim world.
No. The Muslim world is such. Remember that their year right now is 1432. Where was Christendom in 1432? But my point being is we need the separation to be between religion across the board and state, and furthermore, about pushing a so-called secular agenda. There is all the difference in the world between infusing a society with a godly spirit from the bottom up and enforcing religious conformity, or trying to, from the top down. We also, even in this country, we have some work to do to get away from the enforcement of religious conformity from the top down.
Okay, hang on. Paula had her hand up.
But Brian, were we not founded as a Judeo-Christian nation?
Not officially, no.
Yes, officially, absolutely. No. What do you mean not officially?
Tripoli in 17...
Well, were we founded as a pig Latinish nation? We were founded
as a secular nation.
No, we were not. We were founded as a Judeo-Christian nation.
We're not a secular nation?
No. Wait a minute. You guys, Paul is saying that we were founded as. So that's what she's saying. Not that we are right now, but that we were founded as. So.
We were founded, Brian. We were founded as a Judeo-Christian nation.
No.
Take out a dollar bill, and does it not say in God we trust? It doesn't say in Mickey Mouse we trust.
That's
it doesn't say in Gumby we trust.
1955.
Gumby's really pissed off because he wants it to be in Gumby we trust. But it says in God we trust. We were founded as a Judeo-Christian nation.
It hasn't always been on the currency, only since 1955 or whenever it was. But it was during the Eisenhower administration. Second, John Adams, when the Treaty of Tripoli was made with the Barbary States in 1797, it was explicitly stated the United States, as the United States is, in no sense founded upon the Christian religion, not to mention, of course, the First Amendment, which, of course, forbids establishment of religion.
Okay, I got Paula with her hand up. Paula.
Okay, Brian, on the 5-cent coin in 1883, it said, "Our Lord." We have indeed. Okay, there was references to God in Our Lord back to 1883. So that's not what you said about Eisenhower is not true.
That's news to me.
Well,
I never heard about it, and I would like to know where you did.
it's called a book about the euro currency.
What book? What's it called?
About the euro. Listen, I've done a lot of research.
Paula, you got to bring up the. Paula, you got to do.
Brian, look it up. It's all over the place. I don't know what to tell you.
Tell me where to go.
Hey, I've sent you so many links.
You left yourself right open there, Brian.
I don't know how many more links. I think Facebook's going to start limiting me on links I can send you. I've sent you every time you ask me to provide something, I send you the link. Even Gumby sent me the link.
I don't know. I never got it for some reason.
Yes, you did.
I did? I don't know where to find it. I don't know where Facebook put
It's
it.
your racist alter ego.
Oh, stop.
Okay, so have we covered everything? Oh, you know what? There was something that I think that I wanted to bring up, and maybe you guys could help me with this. I want to know why we're not talking about what happened in Libya to our U.S. ambassador, and why there's a paper trail that went on for months with that Libyan ambassador asking us for help. And it's only come out recently, and some of the news shows aren't even sharing it. This is what made me an undecided voter. I think that our ambassador in Libya was asking for help, and I think he was ignored. Jenny, she has her hand up. So, Jenny, talk to us.
Well, that is one of those things that I don't know a lot about, but I do know this much. The Libya ambassador definitely was asking for help, and he was definitely told no. The question that should be asked is not why was he told no or something like that. It should be how far up did it go? Did Obama know that he was told no?
He helped cover it up.
That is what the one side is saying. Is it true? I can't tell you yes or no. I'm asking questions, not giving answers. Did Obama know? Now, as we can see, Paula very quickly jumped up and yelled yes. But did he know? Of course, the opposite side is going to jump up and yell no just as quickly.
Okay, I want to say this, Jenny. I do want to say this, that I don't know if you know this. Hillary Clinton knew. Now, did you know that she actually said she's going to take the fall for this? And
yes, she did.
Okay, so, I mean, I would think that if Hillary ain't talking to the president, there's a problem there, because that's what she's paid to do. So I would think that she probably did bring to his attention. Paula has a lot of research. I don't know, Paula, if you've actually... I know that there's paper trails that go to the day the man died, where he asked for help, and he didn't get it. Did Obama literally see that paperwork? I would think something's wrong with our system if he didn't see the paperwork. We lost Paula. I think she's coming back. But I mean,
coming back.
Oh, yep. And here she is. Wait a minute. Let's give her a chance to get here.
There she is.
Yep, Paula. So Paula, do you know if Clinton? I mean, I'm sorry, if Obama knew. I know you watch a lot of the Fox News and the more conservative channels.
Of course he knew. First of all, when the story broke, if you notice, they started lying, blatant lying, that it was because of that video that went out. It's cover up over cover up over cover up. And Obama absolutely knew. The ambassador had been begging for extra security for a long time. He was denied. Obama knew. He absolutely did nothing. And the media's not covering it because the media's in love with Obama. And they always, just like they really gave no coverage when he was running to Jeremiah Wright and all his past associations. Just like Obama was at a fundraiser for the anti-America, anti-Israel Rashid Khalidi, where actually the Times sat on a videotape where Obama was making anti-American comments. The media loves him. They cover for him. That's why they're not reporting on it. That's why the only stations reporting is Fox and now CNN. Obama is covering up, period. And Hillary is taking the fall. So she's admitting it because think about it. She knows if she takes the fall that when she runs for office that, that she's going to get, the help that she needs. It's one hand washes the other. One dirty hand washes the other dirty hand. Of course Obama knew. You know what? Osama bin Laden's dead, and so is Chris Stevens, our ambassador. And it's absolutely despicable. And when Obama stood for his photo op with Chris Christie during Hurricane Sandy, and he kept saying, no, we're not going to leave anybody behind. Well, he left 4 Navy SEALs and our U.S. ambassador behind, didn't he? And that flies in the face with our promise to never leave our military. Always go back and protect your brother. He certainly didn't. He should be impeached, if nothing else, for this.
Brian, do you have a comment about that?
Well, I wonder why we never heard about the 52 embassy personnel that were killed during Bush's watch all over the world. Why didn't we ever hear so much as a cheep about them?
Did they ask for extra security?
I don't know. Nobody knows.
Well, that's a pretty big question.
Yeah, I'd have to agree that that's really what made me an undecided voter. Is when I started seeing that our president, in my opinion, just lied to our face and actually let some American citizen, though he shouldn't have been on the internet, but he did let somebody take he let somebody take the fall for this and blamed it on a video. I was in another country when that was going on, and that's the news I got. And then I come back here, and I don't see it mentioned at all on CNN. Unfortunately, it's just been brought up. But 2 weeks ago, I saw it mentioned on the other news channel, which is Fox, and that's what made me say, wait. And then the paper trail made me say, wait a minute. I have a problem voting for somebody who's going to lie to our faces. And I think that you're right in the sense they're not going to be honest in what they're not going to be honest about. However, there is proof that this man was begging for help up until the morning of his death, and I've got a problem as an American citizen with that. Does anybody have a comment does anybody have a comment about that? I know Paul has commented about it.
Democrats are so bad at covering their tracks. Republicans are so much better at it.
Right, it's all a conspiracy.
Meow.
Meow?
Yeah, meow.
What's that mean?
That means you got catty there.
Yeah. Okay. No argument. Then again, my birthday is August 3rd, so I do that sometimes.
Fair enough. Well, I don't think anybody would say that this wasn't a horrible tragedy. This was clearly a tragedy. It was one of those things that should not have happened. But I think that throwing around who did what without knowing for absolute sure is almost as bad as killing somebody without being 100% certain that they actually committed the crime.
I'm with you, Jenny.
Okay, but I have a question as the moderator, and again as an undecided voter. I give President Obama kudos for killing Osama bin Laden on his clock.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Okay, about Libya.
Sure.
They found emails that Obama has. There's an email trail that Obama denied extra security to Chris Stevens.
Personally?
There's
Obama
an email.
actually?
Yes, Obama. Yes. There's an email trail. So, I don't know how you could say he didn't know, or people could say he didn't know. There's an email trail, for God's sake.
I haven't heard a thing about this email trail that says Obama specifically said, I read it, I understood it, and I still say no. I have not heard of that.
Doesn't make sense for any president to be involved with that sort of thing. It's the Secretary of State who basically allotted the funds the Congress votes for embassy security. So, there it is.
Okay, but can I just continue on with my thought? My thought is this. I give President Obama kudos for the death of Osama bin Laden on his clock. Giving him kudos for that, I have to say that I got to make him responsible for what happened to our ambassador in Libya, because he was, I believe, as much involved in that as he was in killing Osama bin Laden. They had videos. I know that they had videos at the time of that massacre that happened with Stevens in Libya. I know that they have that, so I know everything was done in real time, and they were, and that's proven that they have that.
Even the dog agrees.
And listen, I'm getting kudos from a dog, and they know better than all of us do. So I'm ready to end this week's show because we've gone well over, but I'm just gonna give everybody a final word, and I'm gonna start with Tina. Tina, you're gonna go first. Final word for the week.
Amen.
That's a good word. Okay. I'm going to
It
go to
works
you,
for me.
Jenny. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tina.
I said it works for me.
There you go. Jenny, final word for this week's show. It doesn't have to be one word, by the way.
Oh, okay, good. That's much better. In that case, it's Buddha. Sorry. Let's go.
Okay, all right. And I know I'm going to go back and forth here for a minute, but Paula?
Well, I just like to say my thoughts and prayers go out to our brothers and sisters on the East Coast. I hope that they're getting the help that they need, and I hope they I pray for all of them. And love our country, and I hope that Mitt Romney wins only because he's lesser of evils, and we need to get our economy back on track and make sure that we stay safe, our national security. And just remember, kids, sticks and stones may break your bones, but we're going to send you to therapy for the rest of your life.
Okay, Brian.
That's an awful lot of last words, but let's see. I will say, I guess my last words are vote on Tuesday and vote in such a way that we have a country that's worth living in.
Those are good words. Let me say, as the moderator of this week's show, that please be responsible in your voting. We brought up a lot of things that are debatable. If they're important issues to you, please do the research and find out who it is that you're in fact voting for. Don't forget to pay attention to each other in this world. It is our world, and we're going to continue to talk about it each week. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Todd. I want to thank everybody for joining tonight's show, The Informants. I'd like to thank the rotating hosts, Jenny Reed, Brian Meadows, and Tina Perna for joining this week's show and engaging us in their conversations. I'd also like to thank, obviously, my partner and co-founder, Paula Rhodes, who's a regular host on the show, and we hope that we've enlightened you with things that you didn't know about and things hopefully that you had an interest in. We recommend that you do go out and vote on Tuesday. Even if you're not in for the big election, there's a lot of little municipalities that might be very important to you locally, and you can certainly do something. We have the power to vote. We earn that right. We should take advantage of it. I'd also like to thank Thomas A. Bryant for the opening sequence of The Informants, and Country James for the sound effects of the opening sequence of Informants. Thank you guys very much for your hard work. And everybody that has an interest in End.formants, the page is END.formants, and you can find us on Facebook. If you'd like to be a rotating host, we'd love to have you. Send us a message. If you have a topic you'd like to talk about, we'd love to hear it. Send us a message. We'll post it. Please know that it's a public site. Also, one thing, don't ever forget it. It's our world. Let's talk about it. Have a good week.
Let's talk.